But it does come back to substitutions. I felt like, yes, we'll get onto the referee and Southampton's goal because that's always going to change the game. I totally get that as well. But substitutions changed this game. Southampton made subs and it made their energy go up, their creativity go up. We make subs and our energy gets sucked out of the game a little bit. So again, it just shows the impact of having a good bench, having squad depth.
Welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue, and we're really in the thick of the festive and New Year fixtures. And last night, Birmingham City drew 1-1 at home to Southampton in what was a much improved performance, but a very controversial equaliser for Southampton. In this podcast, myself and Matt are going to review the game, give our main opinion of various talking points, and take it from there. So, Matt, it was a much improved performance, wasn't it?
It was, Dad. And the word that comes to mind for me is spirited.
Yeah.
I'm quite proud of the boys last night, considering we had suspensions, we had injuries, it was a little bit disjointed in terms of, players playing in positions they wouldn't. Stansford on the left, Cashin isn't a left back, and Samsted came in at right back, all these things. So, not the usual starting 11 we've been expecting over the past few weeks, but actually arguably a better performance.
Yeah,
so maybe we needed a little bit of a change, but just want to come back to that point, Dad, it wasn't a perfect performance. There's definitely things to improve on moving forward, especially going away to Watford and having Coventry at home. But I'm proud of the boys. I think they gave everything, And we've said many, many times on this podcast that win, lose or draw, if the players put 100% in, we'll take any result that comes from it. And last night, Dad, I think I'm very proud of the boys for what they did. They dug in there.
You can't argue with the effort. And I think as well, Matt, the suspensions and the injuries have given Chris Davies to look at alternatives, because we've been saying, haven't we, for probably months actually, that we keep doing the same thing over and over again. And what I was really impressed with Chris Davies is now he made a tactical change. This wasn't a formation change. This was a tactical change, which I felt changed everything for us. We looked much more solid at the back. So when they attacked, we were forcing them just to go side to side most of the time, because we were in a really good shape, and it just looked right. And that happened because he put Iwata back in midfield, who I thought was actually really good in midfield, by the way. In fact, I'll probably argue he's probably my man of the match. Iwata, because he kept breaking up the play, he was involved in everything. But we had Samsted as the right back. Now, obviously, when we've had Iwata as right back, he's not done a bad job. But the problem is he's got a free license to roam, and we keep getting caught out at the back. It felt yesterday that the shape of the team just felt right, and we were much more solid. So when they were on the attack, we were able to break it up much more easily, because it was just so much better for me. I mean, I felt much more comfortable. It gives me confidence as well moving forward. If we adopt that instead of gung-ho, let's go forward at all costs, and maybe, be out of possession a bit more, get our shape, and then just absorb it, I think we will win a lot more games than we'll lose doing that.
Also, Jack Robinson, the left side of centre-back, again, I felt like when he keeps his cool and he keeps his head, he offers that little bit more stability on the left side of centre-back, in my opinion. I thought Jack Robinson had some big challenges, got stuck in. You can't argue with Jack Robinson's dedication, and, his willingness to put a foot in, his last-ditch big tackles that he puts in. We've seen it for the past few weeks now. He's a good player, Jack Robinson. He just needs to keep his head in the game and not lose it, because clearly he does see the red mist from time to time.
I think, he alienated a lot of Blues fans with those two sending-offs in close proximity. And he had that reputation coming from Sheffield United. And I think he's really starting to win the Blues fans over. He's won me over. If you look at his goal contributions over the last few games, he's scoring goals and he's creating them. And actually, you could argue as well that it was because of him we got the first goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's been brilliant. But also as well, Matt, what I really like about Jack Robertson, he throws his body in front of the ball. Some of the tackles, the blockages are brilliant.
We needed this, Dad. Cashin as well last night, I thought.
Did all right, didn't he?
He put his body on the line and he got stuck in. That's all you can ask for. Samsted was actually the official man of the match. I know you mentioned Iwata being your personal one. I think, toss up for me between Samsted and Iwata, somewhere there in the middle. And I just want to come back to your point, Dad. In the pre-video, I did make a point of saying that we need to be more combative and we need to be more aggressive. And when you put Iwata back in the midfield, he immediately gives you that. I actually think he's the one in midfield that needs to stay, and then Leonard, Paik and Doyle need to battle it out for that second position. Yeah. We need Iwata in that centre midfield.
I completely agree with that. And I think last night showed that, didn't it, Matt? That really, that's his best position. He was involved in everything, Iwata, breaking it up, he was involved with some of our best football as well, tying the moves up. He was competitive. It really is his best position. It does worry me. I mean, not that I don't think wrong with him playing at right back on occasions, but some of the teams we play, they're so fast on their wings that once he's up attacking, which he's told to do, where you've got Samstead, which is a natural right back, and it showed.
He's a good player, Samstead. Dad.
Really pleased with him.
He's just a steady. I always describe him as a steady Eddie. I don't think I've ever seen him in a blue shirt, Dad, and done much wrong. He doesn't set the world a bit like a Taylor Gardner Hitman. Doesn't set the world alight, but they just do the basics very well. And you've got a safe pair of hands. I think Samstead's in that camp, like Taylor Gardner Hitman's in that camp as well. That kind of just steady Eddie who gives you a good performance. And Dad, I'm going to call it as well, even when Asoi Samuel comes back from his international break, if Ethan Laird is still injured and he is for a bit more time, I want Samstead at right back. He's earned his shirt now again because he's came in and he's played really well. So
what concerns me is that these changes have been imposed because of injuries and suspensions, right? So what I don't want to see is there's just players just coming back into their places just because they're fit. I always believe that a good competitive team is if you've got the shirt, it's yours to lose.
Agreed.
That is the way that the manager should play, the team should play. And you have to do something fundamentally wrong to lose that shirt. And I just think that, some of these players will come back and they're good players and there's nothing wrong with them. But I thought we saw a very different side to us last night and I was really impressed with it. Really pleased. Because if anybody saw the preview video, I predicted a loss for us here, didn't I? I mean, and we'll come on to Southampton in a minute, who I thought were a shadow of the team that played us a few weeks ago.
They looked leggy, didn't they? They looked tired.
They looked like they'd been, again, they looked like they'd been overcoached. They weren't the free-flowing, fast team that we saw at St Mary's.
I would argue, Dad, they looked a bit like Blues. When we get stuck in that horseshoe
but also, Matt, on that point, don't you think they played like that because of the way we played as well?
And that's another word that comes to my mind, Dad, is sensible. When you talk about Iwata being right back and now he's back in the midfield, when Iwata is at right back, and sometimes Lair when he's at right back as well, Chris Davies gives them free roam to go so high up. We do get caught out at the back. Yeah. We were sensible and structured last night, and that showed by Southampton. Fair enough. In the second half and after their goal, they had a lot of the ball, but we were trapping them in this side to side. They weren't actually doing a fat lot with it.
We looked like we had a plan.
Yeah, exactly.
And the players looked like they knew what they were doing. Whereas previously, in previous games, we've been worried because you've come away from games thinking, we've been well beaten or we've made silly mistakes or we haven't looked right. But we just looked right yesterday. And again, people would argue that with all the players we've got injured, this is really going into the depth of our squad. In fact, actually, Matt, on the bench, we have 3 youngsters. So it shows you where we are.
And Fujimoto. He made an appearance.
Yeah, so on the bench, we had Burrell, Mazawi, and Ishii, who obviously from our youth team, along with Kumas, Leonard, and a couple of other players, Duck. Most of them came on, didn't they? But obviously the young lad didn't. But it shows you where we're a championship team. But to name our substitutes at the moment, we have to name 3 of our youth team, so it shows you we're not quite there yet with the squad.
I want to touch on one last theme, Dad, and then we'll get into more of the specifics of the game in terms of the talking points and stuff. But it does come back to substitutions. I felt like, yes, we'll get onto the referee and Southampton's goal because that's always going to change the game. I totally get that as well. But substitutions changed this game. Southampton made subs and it made their energy go up, their creativity go up. We make subs and our energy gets sucked out of the game a little bit. So it just shows the impact of having a good bench, having squad depth. Southampton changed the game with their subs, and we changed the game with our energy.
That's a fair point, Matt.
And I think it's really important, Dad, is that your subs need to come on and have impact, not just for the sake of it. And when you lose Stansfield and Kyogo, their energy, their press, the energy that they give you, you're always going to struggle when you've got people like Duckshan who doesn't have that level of mobility. But anyway, we'll come back to this towards the talking points of the game, Dad.
The timing of the subs wasn't brilliant either, was it? Because we'd only, he brought on, obviously took off the minute he took off Stano and Kyogo, our press and energy, as you mentioned up front, was completely diminished. No. And I was a bit concerned to have both Dux and Williamson on the pitch at the same time because they're the same type and style of player. They run around, but they haven't got the energy of those two as well. So you're right. We have to make a better decisions in terms of when and who we bring on and off at various times. But also as well, one surprise for me for them as well, they didn't have that Chiesa play starting, and apparently I listened to a Southampton vlog this morning just before I came here. He was rested. I'm thinking he was their best player when we played them. I don't understand that.
He was also their best player when he came on off the bench as well. He was actually making them move and making them tick. You know?
He should have started. I'm glad he didn't, by the way.
Yeah.
But I thought so. This is for them, and obviously, if I was a Southampton fan, I'd be quite concerned with the difference that I saw with them when they beat us fairly straightforwardly at St. Mary's.
Comprehensively.
And we basically should have won this game. I think we should have won. I think you could argue that they had chances. They had a few chances, and it was a close game. But yeah, they've got to remember that they were a Premier League team last season. We were a League One team. But you wouldn't know the difference between the two teams.
Not a massive amount split the teams, did they, Dad? You know, we hit the woodwork twice, I think.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. How many times have we hit the woodwork in the last few games?
I know, yeah.
It's absolutely mental, isn't it, as well? But let's go into some specifics, Matt.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because obviously it was quite a incident-packed game, and I thought we started off very well.
A lot better.
Well, you get again, same old question, Matt. Why can't we do this away? I know that home teams tend to impose themselves, but why can't we do performances like this away? And I think that they've set a blueprint now for what we can do. We've got a tough game coming up against Watford, but if we can play like that, we'll give ourselves half a chance. If I didn't see that performance, I wouldn't think much of Watford, going to Watford, or I wouldn't have many high expectations. But after that performance, I think, well, actually, if we can do that again, then maybe we have got half a chance. But James Beadle made a few good saves. I mean, not to obviously stop them from scoring. But
I thought you made some very good saves, Dad. I thought, the start of I know I'm jumping the gun here, we'll come back. First chance in the second half, I think 20 seconds in, they get a free kick. It was a great save. It was header from Southampton. First chance in the second half, great save from Beadle. And I think he actually did some really good shots.
Well,
his parrying and his distribution still need some work. But as a shot stopper, if we're just taking shot stopping as an attribute here, I think he is our better keeper.
Yeah, I think so. But they had a chance early on, didn't they? So who was it that they got behind Erin Cashin and crossed the ball across? I think it first went to Armstrong, who I think he miscued it, and he then fell to Finn Azaz, who shot it, and then Beadle saved it low, didn't he? I think it might have been with his legs. And that was really early on. I mean, but Blues had some earlier chances. I mean, Kyogo had a good chance. And actually, it was good to see him start on the basis that a lot of Blues fans said he needs to show us by giving a start. And he was given a start. I think he was on for about 70 minutes. And you can't argue with his energy and his closing down. It was brilliant. He just needs to add a goal. And he had a really good chance quite early on.
Great ball by Stansfield.
Stansfield lobbed it over the top. And yeah, I suppose if he was a little bit further away from the goal, it would have been an easier lob. But obviously, it went over and it hit the top of the net and the stanchion in the middle, didn't it? Anyway, I think everyone's just willing him to score, isn't it? But he's getting his chances and he's in those positions, isn't he?
But what was great, Dad, just coming on to Kyogo for 1 second, was when he missed his chances, when he got subbed, when anything happened in the game with Kyogo, the crowd got behind him again.
Yeah.
There wasn't the booing, there wasn't any...
I think the atmosphere was good. Do you agree? The atmosphere was good.
The atmosphere was a bit better than usual, yeah, definitely. And I think what I enjoyed about it was people were actually supporting Kyogo and not jumping on his back, because it's easy to create that environment where it just becomes a thing and it builds. And
Chris Davis as well. People getting behind Chris Davis.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because they could see what he was trying to do and how he'd set the team up. We had another chance as well. Jack Robinson again just glanced ahead, just wide. He's a real threat, but that's what you want for your centre halves to set pieces, isn't it? Then Southampton had a chance as well. Neumann blocked Adam Armstrong again, a really good block from that. That was goal bound as well. And then Robinson once again flung himself in front and made a second block. And then Kyogo had a second chance as well. He arrived in the box. This is just before half time. And the ball, it was almost like a bit of a sort of ping pong with the ball, and it dropped to Kyogo, and he had the goal and literally knocked it wide. And then one final chance before the half-time whistle was Pake's free kick, which just hit the top of the crossbar as well. So first half, I think even Southampton fans have to agree that we were the dominant team in the first half, and we should have gone in the lead.
What I would say, Dad, is we were far better in the first half, especially from what we've seen in recent weeks. But I did deliberately say earlier on in the podcast that it wasn't a perfect performance, and we did make a few silly mistakes in that first half. I think the chances that Southampton had, we gifted them.
Yeah.
Through playing out from the back, through moments of lapses in concentration, through a little bit of sloppiness. And again, I'm just making a point here to say, if you do that regularly against Coventry, Watford, and Southampton, they will punish you eventually. So we just need to be careful.
Silly mistakes,
keep that concentration high. And I think overall, though, a much better first half of football. I think we were the dominant team. We probably should have scored a few more goals, if we're going to be honest, from the chances that we had. But the typical Blues story is we didn't. We go in at 0-0. But it was looking encouraging, weren't it?
You mentioned to me, Matt, towards the end of the first half about this. We were talking about this. We'd just given away the ball, I think, or they pressed and got the ball back. And you mentioned to me that you've noticed, which I agree with, that we don't play out from the back every time now, which we used to at the start of the season. We did a lot in League One. It's because teams will press you and you will lose it like that. So I think we've been a little bit more sensible in clearing the ball. But once again, I still would argue that for Beadle, who I thought, his distribution was actually okay yesterday, but there's no point in knocking it high to Kyogo because he's not going to win it. I mean, Kyogo's quite clever and he gives away a lot of free kicks. But one thing I will say about him, he has to get on side because he's just basically strolling back. And if we win the ball back as well, he's in an offside position, so we can't receive it. But just run. All he's got to do is look at their last defender and run and just be on his shoulder. But he sort of seems to be a little bit laboured and strolling. And a couple of times he couldn't receive the ball when we'd won it back because he was like, he had to go like that. He doesn't need to do that. He just needs to, in his mind, just be on the shoulder of the final defender. So just look along the line and just go and stand in line or just past him. But that frustrated me a little bit, to be honest, because he did well, I thought, with his energy, and he had a couple of chances. But
it just comes across lazy.
Yeah.
There's no need. Beadle's got the ball. Why are you 2 yards offside and have to pull yourself back? I do get the whole hanging on the shoulder and always being on the edge, but there's a difference between hanging on the edge and being clipped offside by like half a yard and then obviously having to walk back because you're 2-3 yards offside. It was driving me nuts, actually, if I'm going to be honest.
Because a couple of times we was in really good positions, and if he had been on that shoulder, on that line, he would have been through.
Yeah. Also, Dad, he did make a few good runs and we didn't pick him out.
Yeah.
He does. He is constantly running that line, and you can't deny. He reminds me of Stansfield with his energy and his press and his relentlessness. He does run that line very, very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, get on side, Kyogo, come on, and score a goal.
I know. Well, the second half started, Matt, and we give a really stupid free kick. I think I can't remember who it was. One of our players, Bundle Love. This is literally about 20 seconds into the second half, and they got Ryan Manning, who's got a fantastic delivery. He pings a ball into the penalty box, and Taylor Harwood Bellis hits the back of his head. But he's done it on purpose, but it just hasn't got any great
save.
It's saved. Really good save. Reaction save by Beadle. And then we had the Blues goal. And this was like 47 minutes, so it was at the beginning of the second half. Again,
tennis game.
But what was really impressive about that was Robinson again. How did he keep that ball in? And he didn't just do that. He came back to him again, and he managed to header it back across again. He's becoming such an important player for us, and I'm absolutely staggered really about what a difference he's making given the start he made when he got sent off twice. And fair play to him. I like that. He's a seasoned professional who knows the game. And like you said, Matt, as long as he can control his temper, and doesn't give away stupid free kicks and does not abusive to people and the referee, he could be a top player for the next couple of seasons for us. Even.
I would argue that if you have Jack Robinson on the pitch, QPR don't score their last goal, Southampton don't score some of their goals at St. Mary's. There's been a couple of goals this season that you've got to look at, and if you have players like Jack Robinson who just throw their body on the line, some of those goals don't go in because we've been too passive away from home. And if you look at some of those goals, not acceptable from our perspective, allowing far too much space, especially on the edge of the box. Jack Robinson don't do that.
No.
So you could argue, he's backing you up as well. He's becoming a very important player for us. And we don't have many players like him.
No.
I've spoken quite a lot now over these past few podcasts in this festive period about that battle, that fight, that getting stuck in and putting your body in the line. He's the one player that gives us it really in abundance. Iwata as well in the middle, he's combative. We do have players that do it. Claro when he's back, but he really, really throws himself about.
Yeah.
Great player.
I was really concerned about Clara being out, but I don't think we missed him at all in that game. I think because of the way we played, I think we soaked up everything, didn't we? And don't get me wrong, I like Clara. I know he'll come back. He's our club captain and he's a good player. But the Neumann did all right as well. The only thing about Neumann is obviously he scored our goal, but he does sometimes get caught in possession sometimes, or make a bad decision. But he's improving, Neumann, and I think he's becoming a solid centre half as well. But it's good to see him get the goal. So the ball was eventually pinged across, and Neumann's a good header. Just went under the bar. I think the goalkeeper might have got a slight touch to it, and that made it 1-0. I thought that at that point that was fair, that we were winning 1-0. We had another chance not long after that when Stansfield had a brilliant shot from 25 yards. And Bazuna, the Southampton goalkeeper, just about saved it because that was going in as well. That would have been 2-0. And then we come on to the Saints goal.
Well, talk us through it, Dad, from an ex-refereeing position then, because actually, you have the knowledge. You do. You are a referee. You do know the rules. Let's talk about it because First thing I did, as always, is I went on social media and had a little gander at what people thought. And there's two schools of thought here. Is now one, he clearly impeded him.
Yeah.
He needs to stop the play. Iwata cannot physically get through the referee. And then there's some camp saying, well, the referee didn't touch the ball, and apparently that's the rule. So let's just talk it out now, Dad. Referee.
Okay. Well, I've actually got the actual rules of the game. So this is the actual rules. So this is the actual official laws of the game. So in association football, there is no specific rule that penalises a referee for physically impeding a player if the ball does not touch the referee. Under the IFAB laws of the game, the referee is traditionally considered a neutral element or part of the field. If a referee accidentally blocks a player's path or causes them to trip, but the ball is not involved in the contact, play simply continues, which is what happened. He just let it continue. The rule addresses referees. This is Rule 9 for ball contacts and Rule 5 for positioning. So there's a lot more information there about okay, fine, the referee shouldn't have done that, and about the referee's position. We do that. So when I did my referee training, as I moved up the levels as a referee, when I was getting to think about level 4, there's a huge amount of information about positioning. And what they do with referees, they tell you, obviously, be close enough to the action so you can make decisions. And they talk about running a diagonal. So instead of running around the pitch chasing the ball, which with professional footballers would be impossible because they're so fit and they run so fast. So what you're supposed to do is run what's called a diagonal. Right. So you run a diagonal, and it could be either side depending on which position the ball actually is, and you're following the ball. But some people will say that and I agree that if the referee doesn't impede Iwata and he stops the play, that goal ain't scored, because what happened afterwards eventually led to their goal. So you could say, well, if the referee was to blow up just out of common sense, oh, sorry, I've impeded you, and give the free kick. But the laws of the game don't require him to do that. So as much and as frustrating as it is,
it's very unfair,
the referee, it is unfair, and I'm as frustrated as anybody, but the referee hasn't actually broken the laws of the game, even though he's clearly impeded Iwata. There's nothing in those laws of the game that says he has to stop the ball unless the ball hits him. Because I had to look that up.
I've seen refs stop games before for that. When they have got in the way and they haven't touched the ball, I've seen refs.
Well, it comes down to the referee's discretion then, and that's where you get this lack of consistency. In this situation, the referee decided that he wasn't going to, and unfortunately for him, it led to a goal eventually. Well, not long after, it led to a goal. I think if I'm refereeing that game, I would have stopped it, even though the laws and the laws are drilled into you when you are going through your referee exams and all of your things. I would have thought, well, I've impeded the game there, and just out of common sense, I would have,
and fairness,
I would have stopped it. But the laws of the game don't require me to do that.
Yeah.
So then, if his observer is in the crowd saying, well, you've not followed the laws because the laws doesn't allow you to do that. Right. So and that must be in their minds. These referees, they've obviously got these observers. So
but surely,
by the way, I'm not defending the referee because I'm as frustrated as anybody, and I would have stopped that.
But common sense sometimes can prevail, can't it?
Yeah.
And Iwata clearly gets impeded. He takes half a yard back and he puts his hands up to say, "You've blocked me off." Someone else does it as well. And clearly the Blues fans are frustrated and it knocks us out of kilter.
Yeah.
But what I will say, that I know Blues fans in the comments are going to come at me here and go, it doesn't matter because the referee should have stopped the game. End of, that goal shouldn't have stood, blah, blah. But you do play until the whistle.
Yeah.
And I thought we were poor, actually, after in terms of we just kind of let them go through. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a decent ball to break the lines for their cross to come into the box. It shouldn't have happened. In my opinion, I'm with you, I think the ref should have stopped the game, drop ball situation, but you do play until the whistle.
And he gave the goal. As frustrated as we are. And obviously Chris Davis was absolutely fuming.
Oh, he head loss, wasn't it?
Oh, my word. And the thing is, fair play to him because he's human and it's his team. He's basically seen where the referee's impeded one of his players. It's eventually resulted in a goal for Southampton. Why wouldn't he be frustrated? He's the manager. He's been under a lot of pressure, Chris Davis as well. Why wouldn't he get mad about that, So, and I like that, the fact that he's not. I don't like people losing their head, by the way, and getting yellow cards.
Probably get another fine for that, wouldn't we?
But it's not. But it shows passion. It shows that
no,
he cares.
definitely,
and rightly so. And as the manager, I think he has every right to complain about that. Whether or not, again, I think that the party line from the FA will be exactly what I've just told you and read out. They'll basically say, well, there's nothing in the laws of the game that says that a referee has to stop the game if he impedes a player, and there isn't. So,
but it's not a good look, is it? Because it shows that the common sense isn't prevailing.
No.
And everyone is getting really cheesed off with the stand. And by the way, this isn't just Blues. I've seen fans complaining left, right, and centre. every week that I go on and there's a clip from a game and a referee absolutely dropping a stinker. Like the standard of officiating and refereeing.
Common sense. I was always told I'd make a brilliant referee because I got no common sense. because you say common sense is that you think it's an obvious thing, but it's a commodity in short supply. Unfortunately, the referee, in my opinion, hasn't broken the laws of the game, but really should have stopped that, really, because he's impeded Iwata, who could have been involved if he had the momentum to actually sort of be part of the defence to stop that
exactly,
goal.
Exactly, 100%. And that's what's frustrating, Dad. Again, in my previous comment, I just said play until the whistle, but actually that goal wouldn't have stood if he would have stopped and given a drop ball situation. So it is really, really frustrating.
Yeah.
But as you say, hasn't broken the laws, but common sense hasn't prevailed, and they've scored. And by the way, Dad, we can't deny after that goal, I thought they were the stronger team. Then it changed the game. They made some subs. They got the goal. I think they were looking. Would you say the better team?
I think so. No, I think they were, Matt. I think after the goal, we took the stuffing out.
There was a lot of side to side still.
Yeah. I know we did brilliant.
So were they the better team? Yes, in terms of possession, in terms of having the ball, and they pinned us in our own half, I guess, for a decent amount of time in that second part of the second half. But they didn't do a lot with it.
They look more likely to be the team that were going to get a second goal, if any of them was. But again, that's because that goal had knocked the stuffing out of us, and we'd only just taken off Stansfield and Kyogo. So obviously our front line was not as mobile, and therefore it was always going to be. But what I liked about it was like this going back to this shape again. It showed me a different side to us that we can.
Agreed.
We can defend. We can work it out. And that's something I would have been worried about in previous games. But having a natural right back there is exactly what we need to continue doing and keep Iwata in that midfield. And obviously Chris Davies got sent off not so long ago because he basically he didn't get the ball back, did he? Or tried to slow them down. And so he'll be missing. I don't know if it's a one-match ban, but he'll be missing for the Watford game off the...
you could see it brewing on the side. Daddy was building and building and building, and the goal went in, and then you could see he was going to get sent off. He was a man that lost his head, but he has... Sorry, excuse me. He has my full support in that situation. I'd have lost my head as well.
Yeah,
especially under the pressure he's under.
Just a bit on Southampton, Matt, because I remember we played them just a few weeks ago on the 6th of December at St. Mary's, and I remember me and you coming away from there thinking they're one of the best teams we've seen in this division. They were fast, they were mobile, and I can't believe the difference in a few weeks of how different that team is. I know that we're at home and they're the away team, so there is a slight shift there, but they've still got good players. They're still a good team, and because of the way we played, we completely stifled and stopped them. That's why I predicted. I'm glad I was wrong. I predicted a loss because I thought Southampton would really use the blueprint of what they did before and come at us. But they were basically the same team, apart from Chiesa, who didn't start, but the same team that played us when we played them at St. Mary's. And in fact, they were, but we weren't. We've got a lot of our what we class as our first choice players who were either injured or suspended. So it really took me by surprise, and I'd be worried if I was them from their fans, because they obviously had the new manager bounce where he won 5 in a row. And maybe we've talked about this, haven't we, about Blues? Watching them go side to side was like watching us. In certain parts of
a lot of the ball, but no impact.
Yeah, and
little impact.
Yeah, but it showed us that we can let a team come at us and get back in our shape. I loved it when when they were coming forward. I just loved watching us get into our lines, and everybody knew what their job was. If we can keep doing that and tighten up at the back and not make stupid mistakes and not give silly goals away, we're gonna be much, much better, much more. We'll win a lot more games than we'll lose and get a lot more points if we can do that. And as I say, one final point for me, Matt, is that I've raised this point already a little bit earlier in the podcast. I want players to keep their shirt if they earn it. And I think every player on that pitch that started, I believe, deserves to start against Watford, because I don't think anybody did anything fundamentally wrong. And obviously we're going to get these new players coming back from injuries and suspensions, but they need to know that they've got to earn their place now as well. That's how you make a really, really competitive team.
Poor Mark Leonard. He did nothing wrong, and now he's sitting on the bench. But, it is what it is, and we are where we are. I just want to... The reason why I mentioned Mark Leonard, because it plays into your point, I don't think he did anything to get dropped in the first place.
No.
All those weeks ago. I agree. That's how you make a combative team. We move on, Dad. We take a point, not a loss again in terms of that home form is still ticking along. Fair enough. I know what Charlton and Derby was frustrating, but we still got a point. We move on. A difficult game against Watford now, who are in real good form, which we'll come on to the pre-video. very, very soon. And move onwards.
Yeah, and we look at the bigger picture, Matt. So, some people would argue that our current form, losing away and drawing at home is relegation form. But I think the performance yesterday gives or should give Blues fans a lot of encouragement. We look more like ourselves, we look more like a Birmingham City team. We look like we're not going to get caught out. We had a plan. That's it. We had a plan. It looked like we had a plan and really well executed. So fair play to the boys. And disappointed we didn't get all 3 points. And that was very controversial with the referee. But it is still another point. And like you say, Watford next, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's it for this podcast. Interesting game, Blues fans, wasn't it? Lots of stuff going on there, and hopefully we've unpicked a little bit of it. But what are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below what your thoughts on the game was. If you're a Southampton fan and you've come across this podcast, we welcome comments from the opposition fans as well. As long as the comments are respectful and clean, no foul and abusive language, we're more than happy for you to put your comments below as well. So let us have your thoughts on your team, what you thought as well. If you did like this podcast, then don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't checked us out on our social media channels already, then pop along to our X page and our Instagram page. And if you like to watch or listen to your podcast on Spotify, you'll also find us on there as well. And you'll see the handles appearing for all these channels on the screen right now. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already and you'd like to, then hit that big red subscribe button. And if you hit the little bell icon next to that subscribe button, you'll get notified every time myself and Matt put out a new podcast. So that's it for this one. And myself and Matt will see you on the next one, all about Birmingham City.